Welcome to OUTdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. OUTdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to OUTdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. You know, when we look for guests for our podcast, some people just seem to stand out with the perfect background and experience, and our guest today is one of them. Melanie Rice is a national account executive for Learfield News and Ag, a media powerhouse serving the entire country with news, agriculture, and sports. Melanie has an extensive background in lifestyle in agriculture, having grown up on a farm in Missouri, studying agriculture at Mizzou, representing the Brownfield Network, co-owning an auction business with her husband, and raising her family in Southwest Iowa. She has also recently been named president of the National Agri-Marketing Association. I can't think of a better way to prepare to share insights on marketing to rural America. Welcome to OUTdrive, Melanie.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you. Been looking forward to visiting about everything that you're involved in. And wow, you have such an extensive background in agriculture and lots of different kind of roles, which I want you to talk about. And of course, you're in the media business. That's a rapidly changing environment. And recently, you just became president of the National Agri-Marketing Association, which is quite a big responsibility, but also what a great opportunity. So I think we have lots of things to talk about, plus more. But let's start by having you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Melanie Rice. I live in southern Iowa, kind of in the middle of nowhere. We live in a rural acreage in the second smallest county in the state of Iowa called Ringgold County. We're down on the Iowa-Missouri border. And my husband and I have a son, Harley. He's 8. And yeah, as you mentioned, ag's always been my life. It still always is my life currently today. I worked in ag since day one. I majored in ag. It's always just consumed me and always something that I've always wanted to be part of.
So growing up, what did you see the future look like?
I really didn't know. I grew up on a farm in Northwest Missouri. My parents still live there, still operate the farm. They have a diversified crop and livestock operation. We were diversified livestock, I should say, back then. We had hogs and cattle. Now they're just with the cattle side of the business. My brother and his family live right there, so they all kind of operate that together. And I don't know what it looked like. I just know that it was something that I knew was always going to be there. When I left to go to the University of Missouri, walking into my first lecture hall of 500 students was very overwhelming, especially for a girl who graduated with 20 kids in her senior class. And we felt like we had a big class, right, for our school. But yeah, we grew up doing all the things that a general farmhand would do. We didn't have jobs off the farm. We hauled hay and helped castrate hogs and worked cattle and did all the things that we were just expected to do as a farm kid, I guess is how we all looked at it. I really thought I was going to teach vocational ag. I had amazing ag teachers growing up, and they instilled such a passion for me with FFA and with vocational ag, and seeing students that didn't have an agricultural background. They were maybe once or twice removed from the farm, but really grasping into ag was really cool to me. But then when I got into doing some student teaching observation hours, I realized that it just was not a fit for me. And I think I wasn't removed far enough from high school to step back into a high school classroom and feel like I had authority. And so I switched my major to general ag and really focused on where my minors could be with ag economics, animal science, plant science, and ag communication. So I felt like it was where a lot of people, I think, look at gen ag as, oh, that's just a gimme degree. I really looked at it as a way to be really well-rounded in the space and figure out what I wanted to do. And honestly, I always say that marketing communications found me. I didn't find it. It really wasn't something I was looking for, but I met a woman named Diane Martin with Ray and Kaiser at a career fair in Columbia, one of the Mizzou ag career fairs, and she was specifically looking for someone who knew horses. And lo and behold, I knew horses. I grew up rodeoing. We used horses on the farm with the cattle exclusively. So we hit off a conversation. They flew me to Naperville, Illinois. That was overwhelming. Flying me where? To Chicago to an interview. And next thing you know, we're loading the stock trailer and driving me to Naperville, Illinois that May after graduation to start what now is my entire career in agricultural marketing.
Well, talk a little bit about your career. You started at Ray Kaiser. How did it evolve from there?
Like I mentioned, I started at Ray and Kaiser. It was an amazing foundation. And I'll be really honest, I met some of my closest friends living and working in that environment. When you plop a bunch of agriculture kids from small towns in the suburbs of Chicago together, you kind of band together and you learn how to help each other out. So while I wasn't there a whole long time, more than I was homesick, I was ready to move back to Missouri area. So from there, I went to Osborne and Bar Communications in Kansas City and worked there for a number of years. I always worked in account services. I liked account services. I liked knowing the moving parts and seeing and understanding what was going on. I liked working with the clients. I liked the problem solving side. While at Osborne and Bar, I actually was approached by a client. They were a startup company called Specialty Fertilizer Products. And they said, "Hey, we want to start our own marketing department. Would you come join us?" And I said, "Sure." I was young and single, and I was like, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. So I was employee number 8 for Specialty Fertilizer Products. That would have been 2008. We quickly grew from a very, very small company to having 60 plus employees, millions of dollars of sales, people traveling. I mean, we were global at that point. I was going to Scotland and Ireland for international trade shows and meetings, and it just happened so quickly. But we were able to keep up with the growth, which was really nice. And at that point, I took a step back I was director of marketing then, and I really wanted to focus on working with our dealer network. I loved working with that dealer network. I loved being able to help with the co op program and going in and figuring out how do we help them? How do we use those co op dollars wisely? Let's not buy a bunch of hats and a bunch of gimme products. Let's not put a little sign out front. How do we really use those that's going to maximize your sales? So I did that for a number of years before Verdesian Life Sciences came in and purchased SFP at the time. And while I loved the Verdesian folks, it just gave me the opportunity to step into something different. I was encouraged by a former sales rep that I worked with to come work for a group called Carbon Media Group. They're based in Detroit, Michigan, or Bingham Springs, which is a suburb of Detroit. And they wanted me to come do digital media sales. And I looked at them like they had 12 heads because the thought of doing sales of any kind, right, just terrified me. And I mean, I knew about digital, but I didn't really know about digital. And so they reassured me, no, 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 we're going to be just fine. We're going to be able to totally teach you everything you need to know. You sell things all day long. And when you step back and think about it, we do, right? And everything we do, marketing, sales, whatever it is, we're always selling ourselves or a product or a concept or an idea. So I took the job. I was there for a few years. I really enjoyed my time there. We developed our own ag network from a digital perspective. They're an outdoor company, so they do hunting, fishing, and power sports. It's their bread and butter. And then I got approached by my friends at Brownfield. I have known Anita Vanderwert and Cindy Young forever. I think just like a lot of Missouri agricultural people. And they approached me and said they were going to have an opening in Iowa and wanted to know if I was interested. And honestly, the fact that they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we think you'd be a really good fit here," and the ability to work for what I consider an iconic brand of Brownfield. I grew up with Brownfield, listening to the market reports on the radio at 11:59. You had to be quiet in the truck on the way back to the house for lunch because you had to hear the markets. It was just such an honor. So anyway, I took that on and I've been here 7 years now and haven't looked back.
What a great career you've had. I tell you what, you've touched all the different elements of sales and marketing in agriculture. I think it's awesome. As you reflect back on that, would you have done anything differently?
I'm really appreciative today that my first jobs in the agricultural marketing world were in an agency because I had the ability to understand every part of the business. I understood media, I understood production, I understood the PR side. Now, was I an expert at any of those? Absolutely not. I was account services. So I was the one keeping all the balls in the air, helping with the strategy, working with the client directly. But my ability to understand how all those things work together has really helped me in the long run. Even today, if I'm working with an agency, I'll say, oh, okay, so I have an understanding that it's not the account services person that I'm talking to's fault if an ad is delayed. There's 7 other people probably in that chain of command. There might have been legal involved in the approval. There might have been regulatory, right? So there's all these parts and pieces that I would have had no clue about if I wouldn't have started at that agency side. So I really feel like it gave me a foundational knowledge of overall marketing from the get go.
Well, and it allows you to really understand who you're selling to because many times you're selling directly to the agency. I loved how you talked about how we're kind of all in sales, even though we might be in marketing. But what's your perspective on how sales and marketing work together?
That's always a loaded question, isn't it? And I can remember being at SFP and you would feel like sales and marketing were on 2 different sides, right? Like we were on 2 different pages, we were in 2 different books sometimes. And what I realized very quickly on was it's going to be better in the long run if we get in the same book. We may not be in the same chapter yet, but at least if we're in the same book, then we're talking the same language. And I think part of that is from a management style too. Like, how is the upper management really managing down? Is it sales and marketing? You need to work together. This has to be collaborative. You guys need to make things work. Or is it marketing? Here's your charge, and sales, here's your charge. And I think we were fortunate at SFP that we were so small at that point that we all have to be in the same page because if we're not, this is never going to work. So I just feel like having sales and marketing together versus separate, in their own little silos is just going to benefit the company in the long run. But it's really, really hard and it's really, really difficult. And we hear every day from clients, well, our sales team really wants this. And you can just tell that that's not what they want at all. And so it's like, all right, well, how can we make everybody happy? How can we make the sales team happy with what they're wanting, but also stay within what you guys have laid out as your marketing objectives? So I think that it's such a fine line. And there are some companies you'll see that are just, we're here. And then there's other companies that they're really, really work together really well. So I feel like that's really loaded, but I mean, that's just my opinion and how I've seen it work successfully as well.
No, I think you're spot on. And as an agency owner and working with lots of different kind of clients, we've seen that over the years too. And to me, it's always like, well, it's a no-brainer that it all works together. But yet, when you get into corporate organizational structures and politics and people and all that, you get these silos that are trying to have each one of them do well. And yet, many times they could do better if they just collaborate more.
The phrase, that's how we've always done it, comes to mind when you say that too, right? Because we didn't have that's how we've always done it. They were pulling us in from all these different places. And I feel now, especially on some more established companies, and there's been lots of mergers and acquisitions happen in ag over time. And that's how we've always done it. That's got to go out the window. We've got to look at what's going to help us in the next 24 months, what's going to help us in the next 5 years. Not, hey, what 7 years ago we had this one idea and we're still using that because, well, that's how we've always done it.
Yeah. I mean, there again, that I've seen that over the years too. And it's just the way it is for many organizations. I, like you, grew up listening to the different, we'll call them the different Learfield networks. And having been in the media business for as long as I have, I remember when it was just getting going. And then today we're introducing you as a national account executive for Learfield News and Ag. But there's lots of different parts of Learfield. And so I'd like for you, if you would, to just tell us a little bit about the different parts, how they work together, and then your role.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start kind of present day. So Learfield probably is most commonly known as a sports network. So we have more than 100 different sports properties that we sit inside and work with from a marketing and advertising perspective. Mizzou would be one of those, K-State, KU, Iowa State, just some of our central Midwestern groups here. So a lot of people know us as Learfield Sports. With Learfield as a company, we have all these other divisions, though. We have a ticketing division, we have technology division, we have all these different divisions that make up this ginormous company that is now Learfield. But Learfield had really humble beginnings. We actually started as the Brownfield Network, which is where, again, my life kind of lives currently. But the Brownfield Network was started by Clyde Lear and Derry Brownfield back in 1972. And they started by doing what ABC and CBS were doing on news, syndicated news programs that were going out to all these different radio stations. So they thought, why can't we do that with agricultural markets? So they did. But instead of being like ABC and CBS and sending that out, they had to call and read the markets over the phone to every individual station in their network in the early days. Now, obviously, we have advanced in our technology from then. And Derry Brownfield, he kept the Brownfield going for a number of years, and we're still around today. Clyde Lear, he's still involved in the business. You'll see Clyde in the halls in Jefferson City from time to time, but then that's kind of where the Learfield side of things took off, and that's spun off and done so many things. I mean, I can't even imagine the number of iterations that we've had with Learfield. We merged with IMG College recently. So really just, it's such a huge organization. The headquarters is now based in Plano, Texas, is where our official Learfield headquarters is. However, the news and ag side, which again is where I live, is still in Jefferson City. We do have news offices in the Jeff City office, in Des Moines, Iowa, in Minnesota, and then in Wisconsin, where we do specific news stuff. And then on the Brownfield side, we focus solely on farm and rural lifestyle type activities. We have 11 full-time farm broadcasters that produce 59 programs every single day across 11 states. So that's all led by Cindy Young. She's amazing. Anybody who knows Cindy knows that she's amazing, and she's created a dynamic team of individuals that really all work together, that have all unique strengths, but they're all excellent journalists. That's exactly what they all are, and we're very fortunate to have them in our Brownfield world for sure.
That's an impressive story. And I have always been, I'll use the word impressed again, with the vision that those guys had for where they were going to take the company, and to have been a part of buying different products from Learfield over the years and seeing it evolve and becoming friends with some of the people there. And it's just been quite the success story beyond probably anybody's imagination. Talk a little bit about your role.
I'm a national account executive, so I work with brands and agencies across primarily the upper Midwest, but I do work with a number of different brands in lots of places to help them be a megaphone. I'm essentially their megaphone for their brand messages, company messages, outreach messages. While when I first sat down in this chair, if you and I were having a call about what I could offer you from a sales perspective, I'd say I have a 30-second and a 60-second radio commercial. What would you like? And we took the initiative even pre-COVID to really evolve into looking at different video options, native content options, content creation. We have full-time broadcasters. They're amazing. So we decided, why don't we leverage that? Why don't we utilize some of their skill set to be able to help our clients? So we started doing that. And, like I said, 7 years ago, all of my sales looked like 30 and 60-second spots. Today, I bet I have less than 25% of the contracts I have coming in that are just radio only. Now we're layering in video elements, podcast elements, digital elements. We're not a one-stop shop, right? We know that there needs to be a very good media mix, and there's lots of really good traditional medias out there that farmers are still relying on. But we also have a lot of opportunities that really work together well. So that's what we're really selling, is more of those package opportunities as well.
So when a potential new advertiser comes to you, how do you approach that? How do you get started with them?
It really starts with me asking a lot of questions. And I'm sure that first time I get on a call with somebody, I'm sure they're thinking, well, I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about them. But because we have so many things, if somebody just says, oh, just send me a media kit could be 100 pages long at this point. And so while I try to steer clear of that, if whatever possible, I also start asking a lot of questions. What are you doing currently? Where are your pain points? If there was something that you could do or you've talked about doing for years, but you've never figured out how to get it accomplished, what is that? Like trying to really figure out how we can fit into their existing system. We're not going to create something new. If I talk to somebody and they 100% tell me that they do not like radio and radio does not work, I'll talk through the other options we have, but it probably isn't going to be a good fit. And I'm not going to waste their time or my time. Now, if somebody approaches me and says, I'm not sure radio is right for us, could we talk? It's a totally different conversation. But it really starts with me asking a lot of questions, me trying to understand how they approach the marketplace, who that target audience is, who's an audience that they can't reach, who's somebody that they're trying to reach and they haven't been able to. Nothing happens in that first call. So over the course of multiple calls, we figure out if there's something that works. We may create something new on our side. Hey, here's a new package option. Or maybe there's something that's already out there that we can say, hey, I think this would be a really good fit for you guys. What do you think? And then we go from there.
So really taking a marketing approach to it, not a sales approach. Like, this is what I've got to offer you, but what do you need? What's going to move the needle? What's going to help them achieve their objectives? So back to that marketing versus sales idea.
I think that's partially why the relationships I have with a lot of my clients may look a little different than like a sales vendor relationship, because I feel like I know a lot more about their overall strategy and more about what they're trying to accomplish and their other working pieces and how we fit into that versus just, hey, let's check the box, let's get you on the radio.
Like a marketing partner. And we've seen over the years when our clients have embraced us as a marketing partner, the results far exceed anything that you could expect many times versus the client vendor type relationship where you're meeting a vital need, but it's not like you're working as much together to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve.
Correct.
As I think about the various audiences that you're helping clients reach, talk a little bit about some of those.
From a brownfield perspective, we really focus on the farmer and where our footprint is. If we think about a map of the United States and we kind of lie on the east side in Ohio and on the west side to Kansas and north, it's the Corn Belt. And so we really do focus on how do we reach corn and soybean farmers? How do we reach hog producers? How are we reaching cattlemen, a variety of whether it's cow calf or stocker or background or whatever that looks like. And we're really trying to hone in on what platform do we have or what network do we have or what program do we have that's really going to accomplish those needs. If we take one step further, that rural lifestyle market, we have a new product for the outdoors folks. We've always said those that live, work, and play in rural America, that's kind of who we feel like we're reaching every single day. It just takes the right messaging and the right placement and probably the right frequency to make sure you're really reaching exactly who you're trying to reach.
You're in such a great place to help people do that.
We love it. Yeah, we really do.
So, you know as well as I that marketing and media have evolved and in some cases drastically changed over the last few years. And now we have AI really filtering into everything. How is it impacting what you do?
AI for me, the biggest impact I've seen is because I work by myself, right? I'm in an office in Iowa. I don't work near any of my colleagues. And there are times that you just need help with brainstorming. So I've really reached into that chat GPT side of things from a brainstorming perspective. And a lot of people say that's cheating. Well, it's not cheating because it's my ideas going in, right? Like you can put two different things into chat GPT and get two very different answers. It all depends on what the information is you're putting into the system. And so I really rely heavily on chat GPT to help me with different ideas. Hey, I'm going down this route. I'm trying to name a product or put a name around something, a package that has these elements in it that's really trying to focus on this client and this target audience. Help me with some ideas. Now, do I ever copy and paste? Very, very rarely. Maybe once I've ever done that. But 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, I didn't think about going that direction. And so then I'll go that direction as well. So that's really where I've used ChatGPT the most. I've also thrown some radio commercials in there before just to see how they would rewrite it. Or if I'm working on something and I really realize that, oh, that messaging is very brownfield focused, not client focused, I may throw a paragraph or something in there and say, hey, please rewrite this to make it feel more client centric or customer centric. And I really do rely on it for little things like that from time to time.
Sounds like you're using it very effectively. Have you had some clients come along and said, "Hey, I put this into Chat GPT and here's what I got"?
I have. And I tell my clients, hey, I threw this in ChatGPT last night and this is what I got out of it. I think people are scared of AI, right? Like it's going to take my job. It's not going to take your job. Like you're a valuable asset, regardless of if ChatGPT is there or not. You being able to maximize your knowledge base or your idea base based on ChatGPT probably might help you keep your job. So, looking at it from a more how do we work with technology versus how do we fight technology is something I've always thought people need to think about instead of AI is going to take over the world.
That's a great perspective on that because there are a lot of people that are scared about it. Well, I want to talk a little bit about NAMA. First of all, congratulations on being named president. I think that's quite an honor, a very prestigious role. Talk a little bit about how you got to this point with NAMA.
I got here because I raised my hand. I very distinctly remember sitting in the back of my very first NAMA conference. And anybody who's been to NAMA, we have an annual spring conference every year in Kansas City. For the most part, it does rotate around a few different cities, but it's a 3-day student marketing competition. There's a student sales competition. There's a variety of different breakout sessions. There's a trade show. And then there's the networking. And I think that networking has always been what people think of it for NAMA is a big attraction point. They get to talk to colleagues and old friends and maybe media partners or whatever it might be. And I very distinctly remember sitting in the very, very back row of my very first NAMA conference and the big general opening session by the one person I knew. I knew one person in that whole room and I was sitting right beside them because why would you venture out? And I remember the president getting up on stage and I don't know what they were talking about at this point, and I don't even remember who it was, but I just remember them, talking about how NAMA's impacted them and how they've met so many people and how they've gained all these connections that have furthered their careers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought to myself, I wonder how I could get involved more than just me sitting in the back row. And so that next year, they were actually asking for volunteers for our local chapter and asked if anybody would want to come be on the board for the local chapter. And that was the MoCan chapter. I was living in Kansas City at the time. And so I raised my hand very reluctantly, but I did raise my hand and I said, hey, I'd be happy to help. And I got to meet some really great people. Slowly over time, I worked my way into the president of the chapter. And then when you start raising your hand and you start being around people that are motivated and excited and really big into networking and learning from either a professional or personal growth type situation, you figure out that there's way more opportunities. And so they asked if somebody wanted to be part of the boot camp, which is our fall kind of an introductory to agriculture conference that we do in August every year. And I said, I'd be on that committee. That looks fun. I live here in Kansas City. Well, lo and behold, to me, 2 years later, I'm the chairman of that committee. And then they say, hey, would you like to come be on the fall conference committee, which fall conference is now being called NAMA Nexus. We've done a whole rebrand. We're so excited about that for the fall. And so I said, sure, I'd be on that committee. Well, again, a few years later, you raised your hand and now you're the chairperson of that committee. And over time, just being involved, judging student marketing competition, judging the NAMA Best of NAMA Awards, just being in front of people that are doing the things that are not only helping your career, but helping their career, and you're all getting along and you're all working towards one big goal. I just realized that it was the right home for me. And then they asked if I wanted to join the executive team. The executive team is a 3-year commitment. So you go on as a pair. So there's 2 people that go on together, and then you're on the executive team for 3 years. At the conclusion of your 3rd year, you have the option of going on to the officer track. So you would say, yes, I'd like to, or no, I would not like to. And if you both would like to, then you go through an interview process through the nominating committee. And Yeah, so I became an officer, and now 3 years later, here I am. I did get a bonus year because of COVID, so I actually have a 7 year stint on the NAMA exec team versus a lot of other people, which theirs would just be a six. So
Well, that's quite a good story, and congratulations.
thank you.
I'm sure you're excited about the year ahead. Are there certain things that you're going to focus on?
I am very excited about the year ahead. I don't really have a main goal. Some presidents come in and say, hey, my goal for the year is X. My goal for the year is to work as closely with the other officers and the rest of our executive team to ultimately provide more value for the members. So, with your NAMA membership, we want you to feel like you have all the value possible out of that membership. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we have revamped what we consider, we'll hold our fall conference. It's now going to be called NAMA Nexus. It's more of a workshop style, industry trends, industry topics versus professional development. It really is going to be an ag immersive conference that's going to allow collaboration and interactivity between all the attendees. We realize that there's probably a few things that we should consider with the spring conference as well. You know, what can we do to make that fit with our NAMA members of tomorrow? And so we're going to be working through looking at, hey, what are some ideas that we could come back with to, update or keep that fresh again, so people continue to find value in that NAMA membership. If they don't find value, they'll find something else they find value in, and then we'll lose them as a member. And that's what we don't want to do. And then we also realize that tomorrow's NAMA member looks a little different than what NAMA members of 10 years ago looks like. So we're really trying to make sure that we're creating opportunities that fit with the younger generation as well, and what fits their needs as they look at professional development, personal development, et cetera.
So, if there's somebody out there listening and they are interested in becoming a part of NAMA, what would be your recommendation, your advice on how to get involved?
So, step one would be identifying if there's a local chapter. We do have a number of local chapters across the country that are geographically situated in places like California or, the far West Coast or East Coast. They're pretty spread out. So, we may have one chapter that covers, say, the entire Western Pacific, and it's based out of California. However, in Missouri, we have the MOCAN chapter. So it kind of is the Missouri, Kansas, there around Kansas City, and it's much more small and concentrated. Same thing with Iowa. We have an Iowa chapter that's kind of concentrated around Des Moines. So I would start there. I would start and see if you have a local chapter. A lot of local chapters host monthly or quarterly events that are a great way to connect with your local NAMA members there in your geographical region. From there, we do have a couple of things coming up, as I mentioned. If you are new to agriculture, maybe not new to marketing, but new to agriculture, the NAMA Boot Camp is a great opportunity to kind of get a little background in ag. It truly is kind of a boot camp, right? I mean, you're going through and you're learning all about the different parts and pieces. There's a lot of farmer elements, panels, or discussions with farmers that you really can understand what makes a farmer tick, if that's something that may not be familiar to you. And then that NAMA Nexus would be the next event we would have coming up in October. It's in Milwaukee this year. The great part about signing up for a NAMA conference, one of the big conferences, is if you're not already a member, you can sign up as a non-member and you get a 1 year membership. So the NAMA Nexus might be a really great opportunity for somebody who wants to maybe dip their toe into NAMA. You'll get your 1 year NAMA membership. So then when spring conference comes around next year in April in St. Louis, you could definitely come to that as a member and get the full immersive year of being a NAMA member.
Lots of opportunities to be involved in a lot of different ways. And of course, we've talked throughout the whole podcast about all the different ways that you've been involved in agriculture over your careers. But another one is Rice Auctions. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Rice Auction Company is a full service auction and real estate business here in Southwest Iowa. My husband is an auctioneer and a licensed real estate agent. So he runs that business. He's the sole proprietor of that. We do have an auction lot in Creston where we do about 4 consignment auctions a year. And then whatever additional estates or retirements come up, we'll either do those on site at a farm or at that auction lot as well. Do a number of land auctions throughout the year. And then we also do a lot of online only auction sales. So we use the Sandhills platform to be able to offer online bidding, not only in our live auctions, but also for some products that may fall in between auction dates. Hey, we had an auction here and an auction here. I really would like to sell in the middle. So we'll do some online only auctions as well. That was kind of how we got started. He did ag sales and farmed for a number of years. And when we were having our son, decided he wanted to get off the road. So he finally took the leap and started the business. He's been auctioneering for almost 30 years now, but never had a business of his own. So we launched that, and we actually started on the online only side, which was something different than anybody else in our part of the world. And that was wildly successful for us. We were very fortunate that we were very good at it when COVID hit, because we could just shift all of our live sales to online only, and we didn't skip a beat. We were very fortunate to that. What we realized, though, after COVID is everybody went online and they weren't having live auctions anymore. And so that's where we really feel like we excel, is we offer a live auction with online bidding. And so it's kind of the best of both worlds. You get people there that want to still come to an auction and want to still see things, but then you also have somebody maybe even sitting in the same town you're in, but they didn't want to come to the auction that day and they're bidding online. So
It's very forward thinking on your part.
we try. We learned that we are not going to be the biggest, and we know that, but we are going to always have integrity. We're going to sell things honestly, whether that's right or wrong for the seller. We're always going to make sure we represent everything honestly, because as my husband says, I'm not going to stake my 25-year reputation on selling your tractor. And so he always is very open and honest. Hey, this has a slight oil leak, or hey, this has a little whatever it is. And I think that's why we get a lot of return online customers, or a lot of returning bidders from our online auctions, because if they have bought something from us, they know it's been represented appropriately.
Well, I'm guessing Rice Auction Company has a pretty good marketing director working for them.
I try. We're very fortunate. We have some office help that does a lot of the day-to-day now, updating the websites, the social media, those kind of things. We rely heavily on Canva from a creative perspective, just because I am not a Photoshop person. I am not an InDesign person, and neither is she. But Canva allows us to still put out nice looking product. So we do that. And then, yeah, from a larger drone video editing, some of those different types of things. Yeah, we try to get really involved, and we try to do things differently. We'll do a cover ad on a newspaper versus just doing an ad on the inside. We may just do one cover ad instead of doing 4 different inside ads. We do a lot of radio. I know that's surprising, but we do a lot of radio. We do a lot of local radio. And I think it's important that my husband is the voice of our business, and it's important for him to voice those commercials. And at first, I know he dreaded every time I'd say, hey, I need a radio commercial. And now it's like old hat. He just can do a radio commercial off the cuff almost. It's impressive how he does it. I couldn't do it that well. He does a really good job of it. And he actually does a weekly radio show with our local radio station as well.
And I'm sure he's a natural. Obviously, he's an auctioneer, right? Well, I loved how you described all the different media vehicles available to people nowadays, because they all still work. It's just a matter of finding the ones that work for you. And I know at Learfield and with the Brownfield Network, you have a lot of things at your disposal that you can use to help your clients market their products and services. And, I think there's exciting times ahead for media and marketing. It's going to just continue to change and evolve. And it's important to stay up with what's going on. If somebody wants to follow you, connect with you, how would they go about doing that?
The easiest way to connect with me would be on LinkedIn. So they can find me as Melanie Rice on LinkedIn, or find me through the Brownfield website as well. If you go to brownfieldnetwork.com or brownfieldagnews.com, there's an advertise button and my picture will be there. You can click on me there. It's probably the easiest way to find me. But I am on LinkedIn every single day. So feel free to send me a message or reach out that way as well.
There you go, folks. So I am excited to ask you this question because I ask this to every guest.
Okay. All right. I'm prepared.
When you hear the words rural America, what do they mean to you?
Home.
Great answer.
Yeah. And I think about, we try to be as involved as we can in our rural communities around here. And from a personal perspective, from an auction company, we do get asked to do a lot of benefits and a lot of different things to help raise money for various events and activities in rural America. And we honestly feel like that's our duty, right? Like we have a skill set and we have something that we can help with. And so we do. We do the county fair auctions. We do the Whitetails Unlimited banquet, right? We do those different things because if our small towns dry up, if people continue to leave our small towns and our small towns dry up, the infrastructure of rural America just doesn't look the same. It doesn't work the same. And we love where we live. We love it here. Our local community has done a really good job of putting up affordable housing for young families to be able to come back home. As I mentioned previously, my son goes to the smallest school in the state of Iowa. And people still to this day, they're like, how do they keep existing? They won't exist next year or they won't exist the year after. But they've been saying that for 30 years. It's because we have that support of that local community. And there's just this very entrenched vibe and feelings and emotion that everybody has that they want to make sure that they keep these small towns going, from childcare to all the different things that really make small towns work. If we don't keep investing in those and putting money back into those, our little small towns are going to dry up, and that would just be tragic in my opinion.
Agreed. Great pitch for life in rural America. And folks, we need you here. There are lots of opportunities, and it's a really great way of life. What else would you like to share today as we wrap up, Melanie?
I don't think I have anything additional. You've done a great job of helping guide me through questions that I was good at answering. So thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you being here. You did a great job and lots of insight. I love what you're doing from a marketing and media point of view. Good luck as you lead the National Agri-Marketing Association forward in the coming year. And folks, thanks for listening to OUTdrive today. I hope you have enjoyed our visit with Melanie Rice, National Account Executive for Learfield News and Ag. Come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America, where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on OUTdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to eCallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, OutThink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.